the Nth Degree, where we're talking about the latest trends, technologies, and innovations that are happening across the healthcare and media spaces. I'm Amanda Preto, and today my guests need no introduction. You've seen them here before. Please welcome Oleg Korenfeld, our Chief Technology Officer, Jose Ferreira, Chief Product Officer, and Mark Pappas, Executive Vice President of Innovation. They are here to bring us the top highlights from Cannes relevant to the healthcare industry. So let's get started. Hi, Mark. Great to have you back. I'd love to hear from you first. What really blew your mind in terms of innovation from what you experienced at Cannes?
So what blew my mind at Cannes is one of those things that just constantly blows my mind, not necessarily for the content, but more for the people that are there and the connections that are made. This was another year where obviously AI was everywhere. People weren't exactly fearing AI like I thought they would. And the way that CMI as a company has been leveraging AI, what Oleg and Jose have been doing, I think is where we're really going to shine. I think based off what we saw at Cannes, although AI was everywhere, more on the generative side, I don't really think it's ready for prime time, at least for what we're doing. I think, why there was a lot of AI that blew my mind at Cannes, it was also reassuring that the sky is not completely falling and then everything is going to be Skynet and auto generated. So I think we're still pretty safe. But between the connections, between some of the AI platforms that we saw demonstrated, I think those were two of the main things that really blew my mind. And then separate thing, when we go to Cannes, like each of us have our own agendas for the week. Mine was really meeting with new partners that we haven't activated with at CMI. And so for me, the amount of partners that were new that we met with is something that really blew me away this year.
Nice. Oleg, let's hear from you. Good to see you. What excited you most, maybe in terms of technology or your angle of the world? And then let's hear from Jose.
In the age of AI, true marketing is still very much about human connections, and it was on full display in Cannes. I feel like it was more people than ever. I've been going to Cannes for many years, and it felt like this time around were literally thousands more attendees than I've experienced before. So that says a lot about the connections, people wanting to have these conversations in person, in the environment that is built to be very creative. So even though AI still is top of mind for everybody, the topics that I personally thought resonated the most with me were more about brand safety and just supply management and programmatic. Funny, it may not be the flashiest topics, it may not be the ones that are most relevant to the AI conversation, but when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to managing the supply that we need to find that needle in the haystack, because in our vertical, being able to find just the right consumer in the right environment is at the core of what CMI does. So being able to do that in a brand safe environments that are validated by these new technologies is very interesting. So the conversations that I had this time around dealt more with how do we create that true automated curation of quality supply and make that bridge between the buyer and the seller more direct than it ever been, because we see the value in that just through the overall media investment. So that was the first one. Second one was about connected television. I felt like connected television is finally having its moment because the scale is now there. And the deals that are happening, like the big deal between Roku and Amazon, Disney finalizing its full kind of purchase of Hulu, those are big statements about now the industry focusing more on availability of that true channel and our omni-channel strategy, saying it's here, it's just as important as any other channel in our omni-channel strategy. And now the targeting and measurement is also there as well. So bringing CTV in our overall omni-channel approach was the other very important topic.
What I would add is that for big conferences, for me at least, like CES, Cannes especially, is I feel like you have 1,000 conversations, and then really the themes and takeaways really start to emerge like 2, 3 weeks later. Like it's all a whirlwind, and then I'm trying to make sense of everything like weeks later, and then the pieces start to fit together a little bit better. Which I think now, I think 2 weeks out, that this is all starting to make sense, and I think a lot of what we saw. We use the term AI, but really what we see a lot of and what's coming to fruition across the industry is really just automation. Like the generative AI piece, I think Mark mentioned it, Oleg did as well, that it's very, there's a lot of applications in the creative space, and that's very exciting. But in pure just like media activation, planning, execution, really what we're seeing come to the fruition is a lot of just end-to-end automation. And then one area where I think we're seeing tremendous growth is in kind of the addressability within the CTV space and then automating that. So just piggybacking off what Oleg was talking about, and I feel like I'm always excited when two ideas are coming to fruition at the same exact time. So CTV is now in a place where I feel like it's very similar, and I'm dating myself here a little bit, but I remember when print took a nosedive off of a cliff. I think that is like the same thing that is happening with just TV in general and moving to a much more digital space, a much more addressable oriented space, a much more turnkey and programmatic space than it was historically. And what we're going to see is a very significant shift in a very short period of time. So that's one trend that like I'm excited about. And then the second piece of that is we've been leaning into this idea of storytelling, narrative, experience management of customers, being able to deliver the right message in the moment. So those two things are coming to a head at the exact same time, and I feel like that's very exciting for us because now we are on the cusp of launching the AMO consumer capability for our customers. And I think CTV is going to be a very significant part of that. It still has applications for HCP, but I think it's very exciting for what we're going to be doing on the consumer side, especially.
Amazing. Great insights. So now we're going to go lightning round to wrap up. We're going to go Jose, Mark, Oleg. What is one thing that our clients need to know about Cannes, one key takeaway, or one reason they should consider attending?
I think the main reason you attend is for those human to human conversations. You have a captive audience. You have 1,000, 10,000 industry leaders all in one place at the same time. Who are you going to run into on the street? Who you have planned conversations with? The off the cuff, off the record kind of things people will tell you. Those are the things that I find extremely valuable. Like the conversations that you're having when you're not necessarily leaning into and very having a very specific business discussion about a very specific niche topic. That is where I think a lot of the learnings come, a lot of the aha moments, a lot of the things that I'm reacting to 3 weeks, a month later, and leading into the future. So, anybody that is thinking about attending, that's what I think you should expect. But very much, you should be planning very like months ahead of time for all the things that are going to be available to you, but also be sure to make time for those things that are going to happen organically.
Yeah, and I know I've said this a million times in Cannes wrap ups, but it's literally the connections. No other conference on earth do you find like the level of people that are there, the most random connections, connections that you never in a million years thought were going to happen. I know with Oleg setting up this partnership with PulsePoint and Human, that literally came out of a meeting at Cannes and pulling those two CEOs together and having a discussion there. With the best first to market award that we won with Digiday for Uber, that came out of a meeting at Cannes. So we're able to meet with not necessarily the salespeople of a lot of these partners, but with the heads, the leads, the founders of these companies to really get stuff moving and come up with something custom and just basically just get around a lot of the back and forth and just get things moving. The meetings that we're able to have facilitated for us there, we can't get anything like that in a single day, and it's every day of the conference. And right now, like we're in the middle of lining up all of these meetings coming out of Cannes to get a lot of these like first to market opportunities going. And I just think there's no other conference that I've been to where it's just as productive. And typically, like some of these conferences are big and flashy, but there's a lot of talk. I think Cannes is the one where things actually happen coming out of those, and the connections and the people. And even if you don't work with somebody right away, at some point they introduce you to somebody else while you're at an event, and then you start talking about something and a new product like pops up or a new first market opportunity. I've been to Cannes now, I think 4 years in a row. And that first time I was with Oleg, and it was like, he was taking me around and it was like a whole new world. And I think like until you're there and experience it, like words really don't do it justice for how productive it actually is.
It's hard for me to add anything new to what Jose and Mark just described. It is a very unique place, and the conversations happen there because of the type of people there and because those people are there to have those kind of creative conversations. Just as an example, I was having it was late in the evening already, and I was having a drink, and I ran into a CEO who I haven't seen in a while, and we were discussing some really great stuff. And in the end, I was telling him, like, look, in order for us to have this conversation back home, it would take probably 3 months of planning. And here it just happened on the spot and something productive with follow-ups right there. So that is not that is impossible to replicate in my experience also in any other conference. And we have some great ones in our industry. Can is just that unique. The other thing I would add is just recommendations. If you do go, and you definitely should go, comfortable shoes, sunglasses, and sunscreen. Those are three probably the most important things to bring with you.
Be ready for innovation, plan ahead, but leave open time for human connection, and wear your sunscreen. Inspiration and innovation from this smart team from beautiful Can. Thank you so much for joining us on the Nth Degree. Remember to like and subscribe.